At 11:51 p.m., my phone lit up the way truth does. Sharp, merciless. A message from my mother. We've agreed. You're no longer part of the family. Don't come to any gatherings. No call, no hesitation. Just a digital exile. Seconds later, my sister hearted the message like betrayal was a team sport. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. I just opened my laptop, pulled up every bill, every account, every payment I'd made for them, and started clicking cancel. By 12:03 a.m., their world started flickering in the dark. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where are you listening from, so I know I'm not the only one who's ever had to turn the lights off on family. When the screen went dark, the silence in my apartment felt heavier than Thessaly outside. The hum of the fridge, the faint tick of the wall clock, it all sounded like witnesses. I sat there, hand still on the keyboard, heart steady in a way that scared me. Anger wasn't loud this time. It was clinical. 4 years, I'd been the silent investor in their version of family. The mortgage that never defaulted my name. The care insurance that somehow renewed itself. My account. Every late bill, every emergency, every tearful phone call that began with, "We just need a little help this month." I'd covered it. I told myself it was love, responsibility, the right thing to do. Now I realized it had been a subscription with me footing the bill. I looked around my apartment. Everything was neat labeled, color-coded. My coping mechanism. After a childhood spent in chaos, I'd built order out of noise. But tonight, the order turned against me. Every neatly filed receipt, every automatic payment felt like a paper trail of my own gullibility. I used to think love was endurance, that if I stayed quiet and kept giving, they'd eventually see I was worth keeping. My mother had raised me on guilt like it was a family recipe, small portions served often. My sister Kayla was the golden child, loud, charming, allergic to consequences. Dad, he'd learned to survive by staying out of the blast radius. I'd learned to survive by making sure there wasn't one. I remember the first time I paid their property tax. They were on the edge of foreclosure, voices cracking over the phone. I was 26, barely paying my own rent, but I wired the money without hesitation. Mom called me her guardian angel. I believed her. Then came the utilities. The car, Kayla's college tuition, $18,000 a year, 3 years straight. Funny how angels always end up footing the bill in hell. I rubbed my eyes trying to summon regret, but there was only clarity. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a balance sheet. I wasn't losing a family. I was collecting evidence. The last time I'd seen them in person was at a Sunday dinner 6 months ago. Mom had corrected my posture in front of everyone. Kayla had bragged about her upcoming business trip that I knew was a week at a beach resort. Dad had made a joke about how I was too serious to keep a man. I'd smiled past the mashed potatoes and swallowed the truth. That dinner table had been a courtroom. I just hadn't realized I was in trial. Now, sitting in the quiet glow of my laptop, I opened a new spreadsheet. Date, amount, reason, proof. My fingers moved like they already knew the path. One column at a time, I was reclaiming years of unpaid respect. Outside, the city lights blinked through my window like Morse code. Somewhere out there, my family was sleeping soundly, believing I'd finally accepted my exile. They had no idea I was just getting started. By morning, my phone was a museum of missed calls. Dad, Mom, Kayla, each name glowing like a relic of something that used to matter. I didn't answer a single one. Thessalance between us had weight now. It was proof. The first message that came through wasn't even from my mother. It was from Kayla. "You're overreacting. Mom didn't mean it that way. Can we just talk?" Talk. As if the word hadn't been poisoned years ago. I read it once, then again, and realized there wasn't a single apology in it, just control wrapped in concern. I deleted it and went back to my spreadsheet. Each line I filled was a memory turned into math. The exact day I'd covered Kayla's tuition. The overdraft fees from when Dad borrowed my card for gas, the month I'd skipped my own rent to pay their property taxes. Every dollar was a story, and every story ended the same way with me cleaning up their chaos. At 9:00 a.m., Mom finally sent an email. No greeting, no apology, just, "We need to talk about what you've done. You've created a mess. Call us immediately." Not a word about what she'd said the night before. No mention of the exile, just a demand to resume my role. Fixer, buffer, peacekeeper. For the first time, I saw it clearly. The family I thought I was saving had never wanted saving. They wanted a secretary. I typed back, "I'm busy reconciling accounts." "You should do the same." Then hit send. The phone rang instantly. I let it buzz until it stopped. By noon, the panic started spreading. A text from Dad. "Can you please explain what's going on with the utilities? Your mother's losing it." Another from Kayla. "Why are you doing this? You're ruining everything. Ruining everything." As if my silence was the crime, not their betrayal. I opened my banking app, scrolled through years of transactions, and felt something shift. The guilt that had been tattooed into my bones began to fade. It wasn't anger now. It was precision. Cold, deliberate, focused. By 3:00 p.m., they'd tried every tactic, anger, pleading nostalgia. Mom even posted a vague Facebook update. Some people forget who raised them once they start making money. Pride comes before destruction. It got 36 likes, mostly from relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years. I didn't respond, but I saved a screenshot. That was the moment the scales tipped. Not just in the accounts, but in me. For the first time, I understood that silence could be strategy. At 6:00 p.m., I called Julia. She'd been my friend since college, now a family law attorney who specialized in messy inheritances. "I think I'm ready to stop playing accountant," I said. She didn't ask for details, just replied, "Then start documenting everything. We'll make it official." That night, he went through every email, every payment, every transfer, labeling, and archiving them like evidence. The more he organized, the lighter I felt. By midnight, my inbox looked like a courtroom, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one on trial. By the second night, the quiet had a rhythm, the kind that comes before a storm breaks. My laptop glowed in the dark, each tab a doorway into years of unpaid gratitude. Mortgage, insurance, tuition, taxes. They'd built their comfort on my silence, and I was done paying for their peace. At 11:00 p.m., Julia called. "Everything ready?" "Every receipt," I said. "Every transfer." "Good. Then you're not asking for repayment, Sophia. You're enforcing it." She told me exactly what to write, a formal notice. Calm, factual, lethal. Subject line: outstanding balances. Johnson family account. Body. This email serves as formal notice of reimbursement due. You have 30 days to initiate a repayment plan before legal action is taken. No anger, no threats, just truth in business language. When I hit send, the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was alive. 12 minutes later, the first response came in. "Dad, let's be reasonable." "Mom, how could you do this to us, Kayla? You're insane. You're ruining the family." I stared at their words, steady, detached. Every message sounded the same. They weren't shocked by what they'd done. They were shocked that I'd stopped playing along. At 12:03 a.m., my phone began lighting up like a crime scene. Calls, messages, voicemails. The panic had started. "Turn the lights back on," Mom shouted on one voicemail, voice cracking. "We'll fix this tomorrow." But tomorrow had already arrived, and they were the ones in the dark. Julia's email popped up seconds later. "Perfect. Forward everything, Tome. We're filing a demand letter by morning." I sat back in my chair watching the cursor blink over my name, Sophia Johnson. It hit me how many times I'd signed that name to save them on checks, leases, contracts. Every signature had been a promise. Tonight, it became evidence. At 1 Hezro, another message from Kayla. "You think this makes you strong? You're heartless." Heartless. The word used to hurt. Now it felt accurate, necessary. My compassion had been a luxury they'd overdrafted for years. I poured water into a glass, my hands steady for the first time in months. This wasn't revenge. It was accounting. Before logging off, I opened one last tab. The property deed. Their house, the own they bragged about finally owning, was still under my name. I'd never transferred the title. Out of caution, out of instinct. Now that instinct was power. By dawn, Julia had sent the first draft of the legal notice for me to review. She ended it with one line that made me smile. They said, You were out of the family. Let's make it official. Outside, the street lights flickered off as morning broke. Inside, my laptop glowed with a different kind of sunrise, the kind made of facts, numbers, and quiet retribution. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small or forgotten. I felt precise. The morning the letters went out, the world looked normal. Coffee shops opening, traffic, humming, sunlight crawling up the blinds. But inside my apartment, it felt like waiting for a verdict. Julia had sent the demand package to each of them by certified mail and email, every receipt, every dollar, every signature attached. At 9:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Dad. Had never called first. Sweetheart. He began, that rehearsed softness coating every syllable. This is getting out of hand. Let's keep this private. I let the silence stretch until he faltered. It's already private, I said. It's just finally documented. He inhaled sharply. You're making your mother sick. No, I said, voice steady. She made herself sick. I just stopped paying for the medicine. Click. By noon, Mom's post hit Facebook. A wall of self-pity wrapped in scripture. We raised her with love, and now she's turned against her own family for money. Pride comes before destruction. Underneath, Aunt Gina commented, First, disgusting behavior. I'd be ashamed. Then, for the first time in years, other names appeared. Cousins, uncles, people I barely spoke to. Wait, didn't she cover your house after foreclosure? Isn't that the tuition girl? The threads split open. Their story cracked. At 1:46 p.m., Animail arrived from Julia. Subject additional discovery. Attached was a PDF screenshots bank record states. Julia's note read, confirming inheritance withdrawal $40,000. Signature mismatch, forgery likely. I read it 3 times. The remodel, the new kitchen. The timeline aligned perfectly. My mother hadn't just drained my bank account. She'd stolen my grandmother's trust fund and signed my name to do it. By evening, Julia had already filed an injunction. The court froze their assets before dinner. That night, my parents tried every channel. Emails, texts, voicemails, all looping the same refrain. It was a misunderstanding. We'll pay you back. Don't ruin the family. The irony made me laugh out loud. At 8:32 p.m., the buzzer rang through the peephole. My mother, eyes red, clutching an envelope. Sophia, she whispered. Please, we're losing everything. Do something for your sister. For Kayla, I asked. Her lips trembled. She's still your sister. I opened the door just enough to hand her the paper already waiting on my table. A copy of the eviction notice Julia had filed that morning. You'll get the official copy in 7 days, I said. Her face drained of color. You wouldn't. I already did. She stared at me, searching for the old version of her daughter. The one who fixed, forgave, funded. That version was gone. Goodbye, Mom, I said, and closed the door. I didn't watch her leave. I just stood in the quiet, breathing in the end of an era. By the next afternoon, chaos unfolded like clockwork. The utilities disconnected. The mortgage notice hit their inbox. Julia forwarded confirmation title. Secured eviction approved, probate court notified. Then came the storm online. Another post from Mom. She's suing her parents. We're heartbroken. This time the replies weren't sympathy. Aunt Meredith, quiet factual, typed one line. You mean the mistake where you forged her signature? The thread went dead. Hours later, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. New York area code. This is Amy Patel from the Patterson and Low Probate Office. The voice said, We're handling your late grandmother's estate. We found discrepancies in the beneficiary list. I gripped the counter. Discrepancies? Yes, Miss Johnson. It appears your name was crossed out and replaced. The signature doesn't match. The remodel, the marble counters, every puzzle piece slid into place. Thank you, I said. Please send everything to my attorney. By midnight, Julia confirmed the filing inheritance fraud. Another freeze, another layer of truth. In the following days, the story spread quietly through the family. One by one, relatives reached out, cousins I hadn't heard from in years. They borrowed from us too. They never paid anyone back. You're not crazy, Sophia. Every message was a small rescue boat in a flood I'd been drowning in for years. When the official court notice arrived, Julia called. They'll try to contact you again, she warned. Don't engage, even if they apologize. She paused, especially if they apologize. The next morning, my inbox exploded again. Mom's new tactic was remorse. We forgive you. Please forgive us. Forgiveness as leverage. The oldest trick. I forwarded the email to Julia and archived the thread. By the end of the week, the house was no longer theirs. The deed still under my name sold within days. Julia wired the proceeds to my account. Watching the confirmation line appear felt nothing like revenge. It felt like balance. Kayla tried once more a final text. Ewan. I typed back. No one wins when family becomes dead. Then muted her number for good. That night, the city outside flickered steady and different. He sat by the window, the same one that had aunts reflected every sleepless night is spent saving them. Now it reflected something new. Me alone, but unburdened. Somewhere out there, they were learning how to live without me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for letting them. By the time the court finalized everything, weeks had passed in a strange, quiet rhythm. Julia sent me a short email. Case resolved. Repayment agreement signed. Probate reversed. You're clear. Clear. The word felt foreign. Their accounts were frozen, and their house sold their debts legally tied to their own names for aunts. The silence that used to haunt Mahad turned into peace. I no longer woke to emergency calls or just one more favor. My mornings were mine again. I bought a small apartment downtown, nothing grand, just clean walls, sunlight, and no ghosts. Evan helped me move in. He didn't say much, just handed me a cup of coffee and smiled like he understood what freedom tasted like. The first night there, I opened my old spreadsheet, the one where I'd once tracked every dollar I'd spent on them. I stared at the numbers for a long time, then hit delete. Watching it vanish didn't feel like loss. It felt like release. Word got around that my parents were renting a small house outside Thessaly. Kayla was working part-time somewhere she hated. I didn't feel satisfaction, just distance. They were finally living the life they'd built without me holding it up. That night, for the first time in years, I slept through till morning. No guilt, no noise, just the steady, quiet hum of a life that finally belonged to me. A month later, I visited my grandmother's grave. I laid down tulips, her favorite, and whispered, "It's done." The wind felt like an answer. Peace isn't loud, it's quiet, steady, earned. If you've ever had to walk away from the people who broke, you know this. You're not alone, and you're not cruel for choosing peace. If this story hit home, explore the Family Betrayal playlist for more true stories like mine.